Hello everyone, this is Leah Whitehorse, and in this recording I'm going to be exploring the astrology of August 2023. So as we come into August, it's important to remember that we are still in the middle of Venus retrograde. I did do a video all about this transit, so I will put a link below if you want more details about that transit. But generally speaking, we are in a period of time where we are reassessing our relationships and what we feel drawn to, who and what we love and value, our personal values, reassessing our money, what we're spending our money on. And it's all connected with the idea of bringing more happiness and joy into our lives and making us feel seen and heard and honoured and accepted. On the 1st of August, we have a full moon in Aquarius. So the moon is in Aquarius, the sun is in Leo. So the sun is still in the earlier degrees of Leo, away from Venus. But still, we've got a lot of focus on this Leo energy, but our emotions, the moon, is highlighting how we feel about our social life, about our friends, the groups that we're connected to, how well we're fitting in with society. And it's also connected with the future and our future hopes and ideals, the things that we want for ourselves for the future. And there's this need with the moon to feel like there is something to look forward to. But there is this tension here because both the moon and sun are square to Jupiter. So Jupiter in Taurus currently, now showing us that we really need to increase our sense of emotional security, but also there is this feeling we need to get more present and rooted into this world, and that means gathering more things around us, gathering more resources around us, sort of having this material security, and yet we're feeling very torn on what is right for us. There are some things that we need to prioritize with the moon in Aquarius, but maybe we don't want to prioritize them. We don't want to have to choose out of all of this abundance that is possible. So this is the main theme that's coming through this lunation. I will be doing a much longer and deeper exploration of this chart over on my Patreon. Also on the 1st of August, we are going to have Mars in a trine to Jupiter. So this is kind of playing into everything really, because Mars in Virgo now is very focused on the idea of doing something to make things better, to improve our circumstances. So you can kind of see how that's going to work with Jupiter. Jupiter saying we need to increase how much money we've got coming in. We've got to increase the income. We've got to feel better in ourselves so we know our worth and we can use the resources that we have at our disposal. And Mars is trying to kind of upskill and just improve our health and make everything better. There's this massive push to make everything better. But still we need to focus on those details of Virgo, because sometimes Jupiter and Mars, when you get these two together, especially in a trine, it's like we want to move quickly. We want to make things move faster, but it can only go as fast as it can go. So we've got to just make sure it doesn't kind of start to spin out of control. And this is important because on the 4th of August, whilst Mars trine to Jupiter is still in play, it's waning, but it's still in play, we're going to get into the Mercury shadow. So there's going to be a Mercury retrograde. I'll talk more about that in a bit. But we're now sort of moving into that shadow period, which is about reassessment. So we're doing a lot of reassessment right now. So this is why it's important to pay attention to the details, because not only is Mars in Virgo, but Mercury is in Virgo, and it will spend the entire retrograde in Virgo. On the 13th of August, the Sun will conjoin Venus. I already talked about this in my Venus retrograde video, but I just wanted to note it here that it is now the midpoint of the Venus retrograde period. And this date might bring us some kind of revelation or some kind of sense that now we start to see what's important when it comes to our relationships, our values, our money. And then this is followed by the new moon in Leo. And this is going to be on the 16th of August. And this is a very important lunation because this new moon is going to be conjunct Venus retrograde. So Venus there at 18 degrees and the new moon at 23 degrees of Leo. It's going to be conjunct Black Moon Lilith at 24 Leo. And this is the true position of Black Moon Lilith. You can have either the true position or the mean position, which is like the nodes. I use the true. And so basically what's happening here is that this new moon is activating Venus retrograde. So if there are going to be some kind of events that are associated with this retrograde, I would imagine that this new moon would bring those into being. It would kind of spark it to life with it being in the sign of Leo, which is a fire sign. Now, generally speaking, at the new moon in Leo, we're looking to make some kind of new start that is associated with Leo themes. So particularly creative self-expression, a creative idea. And it is also associated with dating, with enjoying life, things that I was saying about before with Venus in Leo, being seen, being heard, hobbies and pastimes and children, and just enjoying life. Now, given that this new moon is conjunct Venus retrograde, we could say that the new start that we're looking for around this time, so particularly if you're setting any intentions around this time, they're likely to be delayed until Venus runs over this degree. That will be on the 30th of September. So anything that you're hoping to start or things that begin around this time. So say you do meet somebody, for example, as it is associated with dating, or you're thinking about starting this new hobby, it's likely that things aren't really going to take off until the end of September when Venus has run over this new moon degree. This is how it works sometimes when we have a lunation that is attached to one of the personal planets in retrograde motion. It can bring delays. Again, I will be exploring this lunation in much more depth over on my Patreon. Now also on this date, on the 16th of August, we will have Mars forming a trine to Uranus. And I'm quite interested in what's happening here because Mars will still just be in reach of a trine to Jupiter. So that is waning and the Uranus trine is now exact. But it feels like it's activating the promise of what might come next year when Jupiter conjoins Uranus in April 2024. I think it's on the 21st, if I remember rightly. So Mars trine to Uranus, first and foremost, is giving us this inspiration to try something new. Because Uranus loves the idea of progress. It's associated with technology and computing and human ingenuity. It's also God mind. It can bring us these flashes of inspiration, these flashes of knowing. And so Mars is acting on this intuition. This is a different kind of intuition to Neptune. Neptune is very much, we feel it, whereas Uranus intuition is just, it's dropped into your head and suddenly you know it. It is like a bit of a light bulb or the idea of sort of connections, sparks between electrical connections between neurons. That's how Uranus feels. And Mars is the spark. Mars is that burning desire to make some kind of change that is going to help in the future. It's going to make things better for the future. So it's very future focused. In fact, Jupiter as well can be a planet that is associated with the future. It's a visionary kind of planet. So there's a lot of forward momentum that's gathering inside, but like I said before, Venus is retrograde. Mercury is now in the shadow of the retrograde. So it's a bit of a paradox that we're getting all this energy that's kind of building up, but still maybe we can just make a mental note. This is what I could do, or this is what I can start right now, but I'm aware that it's going to take time to build momentum. Now from here, Mars is then going to run into an opposition with Neptune. So this is where we start to get a bit of a complication coming in. This is on the 22nd of August. Mars opposite to Neptune. Now this introduces a feeling of defeat, a feeling of I can't do anything, a feeling of a letdown. It's almost like, sort of someone pouring cold water over your ideas or over your energy. It's almost like losing your energy. It feels like our energy is all over the place. And maybe this is the thing with Mars opposite Neptune. It's almost like we're trying to do everything. So doing Mars, everything. Neptune is nebulous. Neptune has no end. Neptune has no boundaries, no borders. It speaks of the cosmos. It speaks of the perfection of the cosmos, how beautiful everything could be. But Mars is in itty-bitty, nitty-gritty Virgo. And Mars is having to deal with all these bitty things that seem to be distracting from the actual mission. Maybe that's the point. We're feeling really distracted from the mission. There's all these ideas coming through from Uranus and the promise of big things to come with Jupiter. But now it feels like maybe too much effort, Mars opposite Neptune. Maybe we're just tired. Sometimes it can manifest as losing energy. We feel tired. We feel like I just can't get out of bed today. Or I just don't want to. I don't want to do this. Even though we know that it would be good for us. I don't want to. Mars opposite to Neptune. Maybe just because we feel disappointed or tired. And sometimes this can also manifest, Mars opposite Neptune can manifest as a little bit of passive aggression as well. So normally Mars can be very direct about what it likes and what it doesn't like. And, if you're overstepping the mark, then Mars will draw that line very firmly. And especially when it's in practical Virgo. But now we've got these moving lines. I actually want to say the goalposts are moving. So that's the other thing that could be a problem. We feel like the goalposts are moving. We set the intention of where we want to go. We have a mission, but then somebody moves the goalposts and it's just like, what? I've been working really hard to make this happen. And now this change happens. But yeah, we can feel annoyed, frustrated, but now we're not being direct about it with Neptune. And sometimes in its kind of worst case scenarios, we can end up getting angry with the wrong people or angry with the wrong person. We send out our frustration in all different directions and it's kind of hitting everybody as it goes down kind of thing, instead of directing our energy and frustration into the right avenue. So this is complex. So the best way we can use this Mars opposite to Neptune is to really tune in to what we're feeling. Neptune, remember I said before that Neptune intuition is very much on a feeling level. So Mars opposite Neptune positively is acting on our intuition, acting on something that is truly meaningful to us, really wanting to help. Maybe we want to save everyone with Mars opposite Neptune, but that's obviously going to be a big task and an impossible task. But maybe we can save someone. We can't save everyone, but we can save someone or something. We can take one small action to make things better. We can take one small action based on what our intuition is telling us, what our spiritual guides are telling us, what our dreams are even telling us. And also sometimes it's absolutely appropriate to take no action. So maybe we need to learn how to be okay with that, because Mars in Virgo is so focused on making everything better. But occasionally we do need to sit back and just let things lie and to see how things unfold. And that can be very hard to do because we want to deal with all these little small things and we want to be healed. We want to get our energy back. We want to feel better. But like I say, sometimes it's best to do nothing. The sun then enters Virgo. So we've got a really big build-up of stuff going on in Virgo right now. As the sun goes into Virgo, we've also got Black Moon Lilith there, Pallas and Mercury and Mars. And so we're really getting a lot of emphasis on the idea of improving our circumstances and our skills, being of service, and wanting to build a better world. That's what a lot of this is about. And then Mercury goes retrograde on the same day. So again, Mercury retrograde in Virgo. So this is going to ask us to reassess how we're feeling on a physical level. How good are you feeling in your skin? Do you need to do some work on your health? Do you need to just take some mental health time to just realign yourself so that you feel better? Do you need to assess your daily life? Do you need to look at your routine? Do you need to redo your planner? Is there something along those lines that needs to be done to make life more efficient? Virgo is associated with efficiency. So a lot of this is really practical, but it's also really helpful. So even though some jobs may be delayed, or there's some kind of slowdown around work, for example, or things break and, you've got to wait for them to get fixed. These kinds of issues ultimately are going to mean that things function better on a day-to-day level. And that's what we need so that we can keep our heads clear and make good decisions for ourselves. On the 25th of August, Mars will form a trine to Pluto. So yes, Mars is still opposite to Neptune, but now we have another energy coming into play. And it's almost as if Pluto is saying, instead of giving up, look at what can be changed. Instead of giving up, take back your power where you can. Instead of feeling defeated, look at what's in your control and do that thing. This is Mars trine to Pluto. It's actually very fortifying. It's really invigorating. It's really energizing. And it's almost like we're being sort of dragged out of the water by Pluto and drying off and realizing, it's like steam is going everywhere. And we're realizing actually the mists are starting to clear. Pluto is starting to cut through some of that big mist that Neptune has caused and is presenting us with some options. And sometimes those options feel a bit limited and they might feel a bit like hard work. But Mars is like, I'm ready for it now, or I'm getting ready for it, with Neptune still over in the background there. I'm getting ready for it. I'm seeing that there are ways that I can handle this, but it involves making some significant changes to the structures of my life, to the systems that I've been working with. Maybe they're just not working anymore. And yes, maybe I just need to take my power back. I need to realize where my power lies. My power and my strength is in the everyday. My power is in the now, in other words, with Mars trine to Pluto and Mars currently going through Virgo. Mars will then enter Libra. This is on the 27th of August. Now, Mars is considered to be in detriment in Libra. This is an old word associated with traditional astrology. And yes, the word detriment has a lot of kind of negative connotations. The reason why we say Mars is in detriment here is because Mars is as far away as he can get from his home sign of Aries. Yes, Mars co-rules Scorpio, but he is the main and only ruler of Aries. And so in Libra, the opposite sign, Mars is far, far away from home, far away from his place where he feels most comfortable. And of course, Mars as a planet is associated with our will and our desires and our goals. It's the inner warrior that fights for what it wants. and it's a very independent-minded planet. But Libra is all about our relationships and harmony and diplomacy. And so this is why Mars in Libra can be slightly out of its comfort zone. Now, in some ways, I think it can work really well because it motivates us to find ways to get on with one another. That's the best way and the most constructive way that Mars in Libra can work. We're motivated. Let's make peace. Let's work on our goals together. If we want something, let's find a way to work together to get that. What a great way to use this energy. But sometimes too, Mars in Libra can be sort of like the iron fist in a velvet glove, that we are playing nice, or people are playing nice to get what they want from one another. And so that's where it can become rather more toxic and certainly more detrimental. So talking about the word in detriment, so it could be detrimental if we're not clear with one another, if we're not direct with one another. But like I say, positively, we now have the confidence to try and create allies and create partnerships. So it'd be great if you're looking for a partner personally. You can be a bit more confident about, opening up to somebody and saying, hey, I like you, how about it, kind of thing. Or it could be a business partnership and you're wanting to make a proposal to that business and get them on side, kind of thing. So yeah, Mars can be very useful for that. Mars will stay in Libra until the 12th of October. So we have around 6 weeks or so to work with this energy. On the 29th of August, Uranus will station retrograde. So now we really have such a strong retrograde picture in this chart. Uranus, Eris, Chiron, Neptune, Saturn, Hygeia, Pluto, who else? Mercury, even Black Moon Lilith, Venus. Almost all the planets are in retrograde motion. Not everybody, but almost all. It's very, very present that right now we're doing this huge amount of inner work. Now, when Uranus goes retrograde, like any other planet in retrograde motion, it asks us to internalize this energy. We need to take it within, to go within, and to explore these Uranus themes. Uranus is associated with freedom. So where Uranus moves, he frees us from the ties that bind. And Uranus can be very much associated with what makes us unique. It's connected to awakenings. It's very future forward. I mentioned that earlier. And so we're also looking at these kinds of issues as Uranus is retrograde. One of the most common things, though, with the retrograde of Uranus is that it's trying to help us to reattach or reconnect with the parts of ourselves that we've kind of ignored or tried to split away from because we felt too different. We felt like we were going to stick out like a sore thumb. If I do this, or if I live there, or if I take this job, or if I'm with this person, everyone's going to think I've gone completely crazy. But Uranus isn't interested in us conforming. Uranus is interested in breaking down the conditioning that stops us from being truly free to be ourselves, which includes being different. And of course, we are all different. We are all unique. Every single person on this planet, we are all unique. We are all needed and we are all unique. And so Uranus going retrograde can sometimes manifest as a time when we do feel more rebellious, especially if Uranus is making any aspects in your chart. If you're having a major Uranus transit going on, then the retrograde period is likely to really put you in touch with those things that have been keeping you stuck and not allowing you to grow. So Uranus retrograde reconnects us with our inner rebel that says, to hell with this. I am going to do what I want to do, what I need to do. I'm going to allow myself to be free. Uranus retrograde. So Uranus will station at 23 degrees and 4 minutes of Taurus, and it will retrograde right back to 19 degrees and 5 minutes of the sign Taurus, and that retrograde will take us up to the 27th of January 2024. So if you have any factors, any planets or major points that are between 19 degrees and 23 degrees of the sign Taurus, then this is going to make more of an impression upon you. The final aspect of the month will be the full moon in Pisces. So yes, this is a second full moon in the calendar month, and that means it is a blue moon, and it's also a super moon because the moon is closer to Earth during this time. So it's a blue moon, it's a super moon, and that makes it a super blue moon, which kind of feels perfect because the moon is in Pisces, the beautiful blue of the ocean. So the full moon in Pisces is a time when what is illuminated emotionally is our sense of connection or not with the moon conjunct Saturn. How connected or disconnected we feel. We may be much more sensitive to where there are blocks or this feeling of walls between us, this feeling that we're on the rocks at times with the moon conjunct Saturn. Maybe there is a lot of concerns around the waters again around this time as well. This has been a strong theme of Saturn in Pisces, the trouble with water in all its different forms, from shipwrecks to orcas, to Titan, to the refugee crisis with the drownings of the people who are coming on these illegal boats, and all the pollution of the waters. I mean, there's just so many different things that are happening with the waters right now. And we're very emotionally connected to all of this with the full moon in Pisces, but also on a personal level. It's like the trouble with our feelings. What is going on with our feelings? This is the collective pool of the unconscious. So it is likely that this is going to show us where we have got some unconscious blocks going on, almost like unconscious pollution going on. Again, it speaks about conditioning. Saturn is the conditioning. You should do this. These are the rules, says Saturn. But the moon now is feeling very tender and emotional and can sense that there is so much more to life and beyond. It senses the invisible worlds, and Saturn is making the invisible visible. So now we're beginning to see. We get a concrete sense of what has been blocking or stopping us. So it's a challenging lunation, but it's also a really interesting lunation because we're starting to realize a lot of what has been holding us back. And so those realizations will help us to feel much more connected in the end, because we're not having to work our way through all these obstacles. Instead, we're just feeling and we're just sensing, and we're feeling much more like we can trust what our intuition is telling us. This concludes my reading for August 2023. I hope you found it helpful. Please click a like and subscribe if you did find it helpful. And if you would like to hear more from me and support this channel, I do have a Patreon. I will leave the link below. In the meantime, I wish you many blessings on your path.